Hello and welcome to this week's Outdoor Live. I have decided to go into a cafe because the internet connection is so much better here than it is at my tiny house. But yes, that has been one of the main challenges of my last couple of weeks, simply working around the internet. If you have had a call scheduled with me last week, then you likely know what I'm talking about, but I hope that the background noises such as the music and so on aren't too bad. Anyway, this week is just a little bit of an unconventional episode anyway, because it is more about getting to know me and me simply sharing some of my background information, why I have started nutrition coaching in life, my own personal nutrition philosophies and training principles, etc. So I want to dive right in. Obviously, for most of you, you will know me a little bit and some information might be repetitive, but nonetheless, I hope you find this interesting. So my name is Lisa, I am 32 years old, and I have been a full-time nutrition coach for 3.5 years now, and before that a part-time nutrition coach for a little while as well. I have been interested in sports and just health in general basically since I was a teenager. At the end of my high school time, I knew that I wanted to do something more or less associated with health, and so I took I passed the assessment for like an exercise science school here in Germany. It's actually the European Sports University, a very highly regarded university. And I had the intention at first just to go into exercise more in the sense of prevention. I've always been a fan of working with people before they had any health crises and more through education and so on, rather than fixing things. So I never wanted to be a physiotherapist, more in the sense of like encouraging people to be more active. So I went through school, and after my first year I transferred to a partner university in New Zealand where I finished my degree, and I did enjoy it, I very much did, but after a while I was like, what do I actually want to do with this? I have no idea. And I got down a little bit of a different path and worked as a police officer for a while, which pretty much ruined my body just in the sense of shift work, and also because at the same time I had found CrossFit and was just overtraining way too much. But anyway, long story short, I realized throughout that time also that I really wanted to be working in the health and fitness space, because all I was doing when I was at my police job was like thinking about my training, and I was helping people on the side anyway, because at that stage I had already found macros, and so I was kind of like coaching people for free a little bit. And anyway, I also realized that I wanted to work location free, that I wanted to be online and just traveling around, and therefore I was like, I'm gonna try and become an online personal trainer. But I very quickly realized also people weren't making any progress with training if they weren't also addressing nutrition, so I just got more nutritional certifications on top of that, and basically started working as a nutrition coach, put my training stuff on hold for a while, and then worked for a different company, as most of you probably know, for about 2.5 years until I decided to go out on my own. But first, let's go into the nutritional, like my current nutritional philosophy and how I got there. Growing up, I really didn't have to worry too much about like putting on weight or anything. Even as a teenager, I wasn't one of these teenagers like 12, 13 years already thinking about their first diet. I was very active and had a good metabolism. My mom cooked pretty well with like vegetables and stuff like that. But when I finished high school and went traveling for the first time for like a year, I put on a lot of weight. Put on like 15 pounds or almost 20. And while you still wouldn't have said like, oh my gosh, she's overweight or whatever, I just didn't feel comfortable. And so I had, for the first time, had to face like what does it mean to, or how do you lose weight essentially. And I tried so many different things. Low calories first of all, like just low fat, low carb, into paleo and so on. And what I really struggled with most of the time was I don't like restrictions. Like, I'm one of these people, if someone tells me you can't have that, that's exactly what I want to have. And also I'm one of these people, I really like carbs. And pretty much most diets that you encounter these days kind of tell you to limit carbs in one way, shape, or form. So whether that is paleo, you're just like, you know, you can eat sweet potatoes and fruit, but you can't have that pizza. And like I just felt horrible with really low carbs or eliminating carbs completely, because my body personally, I'm not saying that this is right for everybody, but my body personally requires a lot of carbs in order to keep my brain thinking, in order to keep my energy high, in order to keep me training and just sleeping well. I really struggled with sleep on low carbs. And so essentially that was one of the big things. And yeah, also just I'm a social person. I like going out from time to time, and it's so hard. Like I did really struggle with that all or nothing thinking. So when I encountered flexible dieting and like having that liberation of being, you know, you can work out, you can essentially have everything as long as you can fit it into your certain budget, that was like eye-opening for me. Like, you can have everything, whoa, what is this, and achieve your results. It almost sounded too good to be true. So I still count macros, even though I got into flexible dieting how long ago? Over 6 years ago now, actually. Yeah, 6.5 years ago. And people sometimes ask, why do you still weigh out your food or track your food and so on? Don't you have, isn't that the point of macros, that you kind of learn over the course of time what sort of portions you need, or what sort of, you know, what's in your food and so on? Yes, it is. And I have gone through periods where I just estimated, for example, where I don't, like half a year where I basically just eyeballed stuff and maybe sometimes only tracked 5 days out of the week and not 7. But I'm also a little bit of a control freak, and I'm not really ashamed to say that. Like, sometimes we're like, oh my god, she's a control freak, right? Or like, control freak is probably a negative connotation. I just like the feeling of control. It gives me a sense of calm. That's probably a better way to put it. So that is exactly what macros does for me. It gives me a sense of calm in a world that is usually unpredictable, and it takes out a lot of the guesswork and the mental work for me, because I don't need to think about, can I have this, can I not have this, is this gonna make me feel more bloated or not. I just know, okay, with this and that amount of calories and this and that amount of protein, I'm gonna feel good. And that is what carbs provides for me, essentially. So that's why I still track. And again, this is just me. This is not what everybody has to do. But one question that I got in regards to this weekly live pertained to that, and it was like, what are your boundaries around nutrition? So for me, what has worked really well is saying, okay, once a day or so at the most, I'm going to allow myself something more processed. And a more clear guideline is, and you've probably heard that, is the 80-20 rule. So kind of 80% of your food being from whole foods, being something protein, vegetable, you know, something that has been grown on the earth, has walked the earth, whatever, and then 20% for something more flexible, like alcohol, like bread, like a piece of cake, and so on. And to make that more clear, if I'm on about 2,000 calories, you know, that would be about 400 calories potentially being able to come from something processed. So that is a very straightforward guideline for me. I think that I try to stick with most of the time. So whether that is one day a croissant for breakfast and then a little bit of chocolate in the afternoon, or whether that is a glass of wine and half of a dessert shared, doesn't really matter. But you know, it is a specific limit. 20% of your overall calories coming from processed foods. You can split that up however you like, and for me that works really well. I know from personal experience, if I go above that, I feel more energy dips. I feel more hungry, because of course more processed foods don't satiate you as much. And I have learned from that the hard way. Not saying that I always stick with that. Occasionally, like when you're traveling and there's really nothing of higher quality around, or you know, then I'll veer off of that. But I know that I'm gonna have to pay for that with just like feeling more sluggish, or with being more hungry, because even though it's the same calories, then on other days Again, it doesn't take up as much space in my stomach, and therefore I'm gonna be craving more things, but I just need to be aware of that. So that, I don't know if that is helpful, but I truly do believe and live the 80-20 rule. And however, I need to split that up on the day depending on social invites or depending on how I feel. That really depends. And yeah, again, I don't always stick with that or manage to stick with that, but it gives me a really good guideline. So I'm not going to be thinking, okay, I have dinner to go to this day, and on that same day I'm going to go and have my croissant by the lake or whatever. If if you've been following me, you know that I love croissants, I love pastries or pretzels and those kind of carby things sometimes. But just generally, I know if I have something else going on in the day, I'm not going to do that. If I do that in the morning, then I'm probably going to say to something else, no to something else in the evening, just because it also helps me feel good for the rest of the day, not necessarily because that is my guideline, but because of a feeling. Yeah, and with all of that, I feel energized enough to train 5 days a week. I usually train 4 or 5 days. I basically never train 6 days, and I've never ever trained 7 days in a week because my body tells me stop. Like if I would try to do that, I could immediately feel that it would have diminishing returns in the sense of the effort that I'm being able to put out. Because if you train too many days in a row, then you can probably tell that you're not able to push as hard. And in the end, if you're not able to push as hard, you're not gonna build as much muscle or get stronger or whatever. So I definitely need at least 2 rest days, and I feel, as stupid as it sounds, but the older I get, the more I feel like I need more rest days. So I'm actually thinking about potentially transitioning to a 4-day training program. I have just a few months ago transitioned from 5 days of strength training to 4 days of strength training and 1 sort of cardio day, just because I actually enjoy swimming. I'm not a big cycle person or running too much, but I enjoy swimming. So while I'm here in Germany and I have access to a nice pool, I want to utilize that. So at the moment I have been following an upper lower split, so upper body lower body split for 3 and a bit years, probably, maybe longer, and I love it. I absolutely love it. I don't like body part splits too much. Body part splits meaning like chest and back, or chest and bicep and back and tricep and hamstrings and whatever. So that would be a body part split. I have also done a push-pull split, which I also enjoyed, but my favorite really is the upper-lower. My body doesn't do well with full body training programs, and I know that from having done multiple years of CrossFit. So that leads me to one of the other questions. So I guess just to sum up that question, which was, what does my training split look like? I strength train 4 days a week, usually upper, then lower, and then now in the middle is like my swimming day, and then lower and then upper. That's kind of my split. And then I take 2 full days off. And when I say I take 2 full days off, I mean I still go for my walks, my 8 to 10,000 steps, but I really don't do much else. I might go paddle boarding, super lightly, like really nothing where I'm exerting myself, but that is it. And yeah, just that is what I require in order to be able to go hard again the next Monday. I've just really learned that. So anyway, where I wanted to get to was my training when I was doing the full body split. So essentially, after I finished or throughout university, I kind of realized, okay, I need to start with structured strength training. As a teenager, I never did that. It was more like, okay, track and field, here volleyball, a little bit of swimming, and so on. And then throughout university, I started with yoga, I started with running a little bit, and I was like, oh, I want to shape this and that body part. So I started a little bit with gym training, but really nothing properly. I always thought it was boring, and then I got into CrossFit and I very much enjoyed it. I kind of got addicted to it because I'm a competitive person by nature, and also just the variety, and I liked turning up somewhere and having someone tell you what to do. I really enjoyed that. I'm a very coachable person. Like, I look up to someone telling me what to do. I really like that. And so anyway, I got pretty much addicted to that, and I was like training at least 2 days a week, 2 hours a day for 6 days of the week. And then after a few years, I developed multiple injuries in my neck and my wrist and my lower back, and my body just said stop. So one day I woke up and I couldn't turn my neck at all, and that was basically, I definitely received the signals to stop or to take it more easy before that, but of course I didn't listen. And I wasn't aware of it negatively impacting other things of my life too. Like, I just thought, it makes me feel so great afterwards. How can this possibly be bad for me, right? Not thinking that it was contributing to my already high stress levels, that it was probably part of the reason why I couldn't let go of the lower belly fat, that it was affecting my sleep negatively, and that was part of the reason why I was waking up multiple times a night, and all these sorts of things. So anyway, I was forced to take it easy for like a month. I basically just was able to go for walks and slowly getting back into running. And then the only things I could do were like more bodybuilding type things. So I couldn't do any Olympic lifting anymore. Everything that was more explosive hurt my neck again, and I thought it was incredibly boring just going to the gym. And that brings me to the other question that I was receiving, which was what was one of the main challenges you have encountered in your nutrition and fitness journey. And I would say that embracing that boredom at first, from going from high intensity exercise, always feeling like, oh my god, I've given it my all, I'm dripping with sweat and I'm laying on the ground, this was such a great workout, into going into the gym and just moving for like 45 minutes or an hour and not even sweating properly and feeling like, is this good enough? I thought it was the strangest thing, walking out of the gym feeling like you still have something in the tank, and like, okay, I feel fine, but it was just so boring. Like, embracing that boredom at first and coming off of that almost like a dopamine high from just chasing sweat after sweat, and not burnout, but like, that's, I'm sure you know what I mean, that feeling of giving it your all. Of course, sometimes that feels good. Every now and then, maybe once a month, it's good to do a depletion workout. But if you have ever done CrossFit or any other high intensity interval training, like, I don't know, whatever else examples we want to use, you know what I mean, what they encourage, like, go harder, go faster, blah blah blah, and that was such a high for me. But realizing that was, even though it felt good, that was actually terrible for my body, and choosing what was logically better for my body over what felt better was very difficult. Like, I'm not gonna lie, it probably took like 2-3 months before I started enjoying the more bodybuilding type strength training. And I only started enjoying it because I actually started sleeping better. I started seeing more definition than I had in all the previous years of high intensity work. And actually, even though I thought like I was working out less, or less intense anyway, I was actually seeing like some of the fat go down as well. So I only started enjoying it because I started seeing the results, which is sometimes the case, but anyway. So that was one of the challenges when it comes to fitness, for sure. I guess what I should also mention when it comes to my training split, I never go over 60 minutes. Like, my workouts are 45 to 60 minutes, and that is it. And the pure reason is that I have become so clear on my priorities, and my priority nowadays is not, oh, I need to be the fittest person in the world. My priority lie in health, and they lie in my work. And so I know I don't want to spend more than 1 hour per day on exercise. It used to be certainly different when I was doing CrossFit too. I was spending like 3 hours in the gym, 2 hours training and then some foam rolling and socializing and what. Nowadays I just know I don't want to make the time for that. It's just not the time. Not to say that this is always wrong or whatever. It's just that I do think that there is value in knowing your priorities, and if health is your focus, you truly do not, or even if aesthetics is your focus too, you truly do not need to spend more than 60 hours in the gym for your training sessions. I am 100% convinced of that, and I think that I personally have experienced that for me as well. If performance is your goal, it might be something different. But then carrying on from that question with the challenges, like what were my nutritional challenges, or what are my nutritional challenges? And that is different nowadays than it was when I first, or than it was several years ago. So again, my challenges used to be letting go of the restriction, or like handling the restriction and not binging out on the weekends or binging out on cake or whatever after restricting for so long. The next challenge would have also been trusting the process when I found macros, and believing that calories are not necessarily always created equal, but let's say learning that I can have a little bit of rice and it's not going to make me fat the next day, or learning that I can have some cereal and it's not going to make me fat the next day. So just letting go of old beliefs when it comes to carbs are bad for you, or don't eat too late, it's going to make you fat, and all that sort of stuff. That definitely used to be a huge challenge, like trusting that process, I guess. Nowadays challenges are and continue to be, and I won't lie, I don't think that ever completely goes away, but it just continues to be, especially like in summer when you have a ton of invitations, or people are like, oh, you want to meet up in the morning, and then oh, the next person, you want to come to this barbecue here and there. But like I said, I think learning more and more what is your limit of what feels good to you can teach you to say no more often, and then actually allow you to enjoy the invitations that you do go to enjoy them more, because otherwise sometimes it can be a little bit of a marathon, going from this person to that person's place, and then minimizing your food intake here as much as possible to also be able to eat something at that place there, and instead just choosing consciously where you want to go to at what time, and then enjoying that and like planning for that, and bringing something to that barbecue or whatever it might be. But that's definitely still a challenge. Like saying no is not easy for someone who's naturally a people pleaser or a recovering people pleaser. And then on top of that, I mean, I don't drink often, but I do actually sometimes enjoy an alcoholic beverage, and I do have a sweet tooth, so balancing those can also be challenging. If everybody on the table is drinking, but then I know the tiramisu is coming, and I know the next day I actually want to get up early, sticking with my plan and being like, okay, no, I'm not going to drink today because I do want to have some of the tiramisu is not super easy either. But yes, so I mean, I'm even though I have been doing this for a long time and I coach certain things around nutrition, doesn't mean that it always comes super easy to me either. And then of course, like with travel, another challenge is always being prepared for high quality foods, or picking out the high quality foods. It's simply tricky, and B, wanting to try new things. That's also, I mean, part of it, and I'm not completely limiting myself on that always, because we only live once and memories are important. But still at the same time, I always try to keep at the forefront of my mind, how is that going to make me feel in 2-3 hours or tomorrow? Because in the end, that is what matters the most. Not given into the feeling right now and just some impulses, but like keeping at the forefront of your mind, how is this going to make me feel long term? In 3-4 hours, am I still going to be happy that I chose that? yeah, basically I would say that that is a big, continues to be a challenge too. And then I want to finish off with one last question, and that is, I'm just looking down because I'm reading it off. And yeah, what is, again, pertaining to challenges, what was overall one of the biggest challenges that has got you to where you are now? And that can also pertain to business. So I guess I should, or wanted to touch on why I actually started nutrition coaching in life. And it has come more from a place of wanting to continue to grow personally. I was actually very happy for the most part with the company that I was working with, Tailored Coaching Method. I was incredibly fortunate to have an amazing mentor from the coach there, and just a great community overall. But I felt like in order to continue to grow personally, I needed to go out on my own and needed to trust my instinct. And at the same time, there were certain things that I could feel that I wasn't quite aligning with anymore, and the business moving into one direction, I personally developing more interests in that direction. And so I guess, yeah, I'm someone, I want to always keep growing in one way, shape, or form. That doesn't necessarily mean always financially, or always more people, or always working harder. That's not what I'm saying, but just like expanding on one level. And I guess when it comes to that, I guess to answer that question of what has been a challenge that brought me to where I am now, that I'm thankful for, is just embracing risks overall, because I think any kind of change can be scary. So for example, moving away from New Zealand, leaving the comfort of a quote-unquote safe, steady police job, and diving full on into coaching was really scary, but a risk that I am like, I cannot even begin to describe how thankful I am that I took that risk. And just other challenges, like embracing the change of, I'm gonna try flexible dieting. Like what's the thing that could, what's the worst thing that could happen? I could gain a couple of pounds, or you know, like just embracing the risk of embracing change as something positive, as opposed to trying something for one day and then be like, oh, I don't like this, or oh, I don't like a high protein diet, or I don't like, for me it was also difficult increasing my protein intake at first. It was not just the buying into, okay, carbs are not that bad for you, but like increasing your protein at first is difficult, especially if it's through good quality sources and so on. So yeah, I would sum that up and kind of finish off with that. Taking risks, trusting intuition, and embracing the discomfort of change. That would be the two things that I can truly say have gotten me to where I am now, and that I'm really, really thankful for. And maybe that's something that resonates with you also. So thanks everybody for listening. I hope you kind of enjoyed getting to know me a little bit better. Maybe there were some things that you can relate to too. Thank you for your questions. I hope you have a great start to a wonderful weekend.